All right, Phil Larmon here, and if you heard the last episode, you already know where we're picking up. Episode 21 was the why fan ownership matters, why the fan economy is shifting, why the old sports and entertainment structure is collapsing in real time, and why tokenization isn't a buzzword, but the economic engine behind everything that's coming next. Today is the how. Today, we're breaking down the rails underneath all of this. The part nobody ever explains clearly. Not the hype, the actual mechanics. Tokenized ticketing, fan access, compliant equity models, media distribution tokens, loyalty to equity pipelines, real-world authentication, and how all these pieces come together into one frictionless modern fan economy. In episode 21 was the vision. Episode 22 is the blueprint. This is where the theory becomes executable. This is where we stop talking about someday and start walking through what's already happening in the music, film, live events, sports, and digital entertainment right now. And by the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly how the technology works, how businesses are using it, and how fans, for the first time ever, are actually getting ownership in the things they support. So let's get into it. Let's start by grounding something simple, because everything builds from this. In entertainment, every system has always been built around three layers: access, ownership, and monetization. Fans want access. Companies want control. And middlemen sit in between, charging fees while adding friction. Tokenization collapses all three layers into one. It transforms access into ownership, ownership into participation, and participation into monetization. Everything becomes trackable, transferable, programmable, and authenticated on-chain. And the first place this became obvious was ticketing. Ticketing might be the most universally hated part of entertainment. Ticketmaster fees, scalpers flipping seats for 5 times the face value, bots buying entire sections in seconds, people getting scammed with fake tickets. I've been there. And the actual person on stage gets paid zero on any of the resale activity. It's a broken system that's been allowed to stay broken because the incumbents profit off the chaos. Tokenized tickets fix everything in one move. When a ticket exists as a blockchain asset, it's instantly verifiable. You can't duplicate it, you can't screenshot it, and you can't trick someone. You can't generate counterfeits, you can't manipulate barcodes, and the game-changing part of this, smart contracts allow artists, venues, or leagues to automatically take a percentage of every resale, not manually, automatically, and instantly. Let's say Taylor Swift sets her ticket at $200 and someone resells it for $800. With a smart contract, Taylor could get a 10% resale royalty. That means she earns $160 on that transaction without lifting a finger. Sounds fair to me. Scammers get eliminated, scalpers get reduced, and the artist actually benefits from the true market value of the demand. This is already live. Git Protocol has issued millions of blockchain-based tickets. And the wild thing is that most users have no idea the technology is blockchain-based. They just know that tickets work better. That's the future. No crypto tickets, just better tickets powered by invisible blockchain rails. Now let's connect directly to fan access, because this is where tokenization becomes more than just a workflow. This is where relationships deepen. When a ticket is an NFT, it's more than a barcode. It can hold metadata. It can evolve. It can reflect your participation. Imagine you go to a concert and your ticket updates afterwards with a new trait. Attended live. Maybe that trait unlocks a discount on merch or early access to the next tour. Or maybe it gives you a chance to enter a lottery for backstage passes. Your digital asset grows with your fandom. It becomes a living representation of your engagement. That's pretty cool. Now imagine you attend multiple shows in a tour. Each ticket adds new traits, new perks, new status. Suddenly, your fan history becomes part of your digital identity, and because it's all authenticated on-chain, the the artist actually knows who their superfans are. Super valuable. Not by email lists, not by guesswork, but with real data tied to actual behavior. This is where LiveLike comes into play. A company I found back when I was at iHeart. They were doing interactive fan layers on top of sports broadcast. Polls, trivia, engagement, watch parties. They were the first company that made me realize fans just don't want to consume content, they want to participate in it. Tokenization takes that participation and turns it into ownership. When you combine engagement layers with ownership layers, you get something entertainment has never had. A system where the most valuable fans create the most value for the ecosystem and get rewarded for it. Now, let's go deeper into compliant equity models, because this is the part everyone screws up. When fans get real ownership, not utility points or meaningless rewards, you cross into security territory. That means regulation. That means compliance, and that definitely means disclosure. That means legal frameworks that protect both the fans and the creators. Fan tokens, like the one Socios uses, were the first attempt to give fans influence. But they were utility tokens, not equity. And because they weren't actual ownership, and because some campaigns weren't clearly communicated, regulators stepped in. This is why I use Socios as a cautionary example, not because their model was terrible, but because it proves something. Fans want involvement, but involvement without transparency becomes a legal minefield. The future is compliant fan equity, not points, not engagement tokens, actual digital securities tied to real economic rights. Ownership and revenue, ownership and IP, ownership and royalties, ownership and upside. This is where platforms like DigiShares, the company I'm joining as VP of Business Development, become foundational. They build the rails, the compliance rails, the investor management system, the cap tables, the transfer agent layers, the secondary trading rails, everything entertainment needs to finally deliver ownership properly. This isn't speculation. This is infrastructure. Now let's move to media distribution tokens, because this is the next massive shift. Right now, your streaming platform controls everything. Netflix controls distribution, Spotify controls distribution, YouTube controls distribution. They control the algorithms, the payouts, the visibility, the monetization. Tokenized media distribution flips this entire model on its head. Imagine an independent filmmaker that tokenizes 20% of future film revenue. Those tokens are sold to 5,000 fans for $50 each. The filmmaker uses the raise to fund the production. The fans become the marketing force. They share the trailer, they push reviews, they bring attention to the premiere because their financial interest is aligned with the film's success. When the film sells to a streaming platform or earns box office revenue, a percentage flows back to the token holders. That's real revenue share. And because blockchain handles the accounting in real time, there's no hiding, no Hollywood math, no creative accounting, no manipulation. Let me tell you, that's all very real. Hollywood has never operated transparently. Tokenization forces transparency. Same thing in music. Imagine an artist releases a new album and tokenizing 10% of the master rights. Fans buy in, they earn a share of streaming revenue. They push the music more than any label, street team ever could. That's the shift. Now let's talk about loyalty to equity pipelines. Arguably, one of the most powerful models across sports entertainment. Right now, loyalty programs are siloed. Your points at one brand don't mean anything at another. Your engagement on Instagram doesn't increase your access to a concert. Your attendance at a show doesn't upgrade your merchandise experience. Tokenization unifies loyalty. Imagine you attend 3 shows from an artist. That builds loyalty. That loyalty translates to a chance to buy into revenue share token on their next project. Or maybe your fan status unlocks early investment rights. Your engagement becomes a pre-qualification for ownership. This changes everything. Fans stop being passive consumers. They become part of the economic engine. They earn access because they've earned trust. And because it's tracked on chain, it's transparent and tamper-proof. Now let's go deeper, because we're still only scratching the surface of how this works at scale. One of the most powerful, underrated aspects of tokenization is authentication. Counterfeit merch, fake tickets, bootleg memorabilia, fraudulent collectibles. These problems cost the entertainment industry billions. NFT-backed authentication fixes that instantly. You buy a signed jersey, it comes with a blockchain certificate. You buy a limited edition vinyl, blockchain certificate. You buy a prop from a movie set, blockchain certificate. You buy a collectible poster, you better believe it, blockchain certificate. This makes every item traceable, provable, verifiable, and eternal. And it also opens the door for dynamic digital twins, the ability for a physical item to have a digital version that evolves, upgrades, unlocks, or interacts with a fan profile. Physical and digital merge. That's where entertainment is heading. And this ties into the last component of today's episode, the rails behind everything. Smart contracts, compliance frameworks, on-chain identity, on-chain royalties, on-chain distribution, secondary markets, transfer agents, custody, digital wallets that don't feel like crypto wallets. I'm talking about a seamless experience. All of this is the foundation of the modern fan economy. And when you look at all these pieces together, ticketing, access, equity, distribution, loyalty, authentication, the bigger picture becomes obvious. Entertainment is shifting from a top-down model where companies push content outward to an ecosystem model where fans, creators, and rights holders all operate on the same rails with aligned incentives. And if you're listening to this wondering, is this actually happening or is this still theoretical? Let me tell you, it's happening right now, today, quietly, strategically, but in pockets. You're seeing it in music first because the financial pain is the biggest there. Mid-tier artists are using tokenized royalties to fund albums instead of taking predatory label deals. They're building communities. They don't just listen, they invest, they support, they participate, they market. And because the fans have ownership, the artist finally has leverage. You're seeing it in film. Independent filmmakers are tired of handing over IP just to get a project funded. They're using tokenized revenue shares to maintain control, raise capital, and build an audience before they ever hit the festival circuit. Suddenly, they aren't starting from zero. They're starting from a base of people who are economically aligned with the film's success. They're seeing it in ticketing, concert venues, smaller leagues, and independent festivals are moving to blockchain systems because they're sick of fraud, they're sick of scalpers, and they're sick of giving away value to the middleman. And in markets where NFT ticketing has been adopted, fan satisfaction went up, fees went down, and artists earn more revenue than they ever have before. You're seeing it in digital collectibles. Sport leagues are using blockchains to authenticate memorabilia, build collectible ecosystems that go beyond cardboard. Fans are building digital stacks of moments, and teams are earning royalties on every secondary sale. It's not speculations, it's licensed, authenticated IP. You're seeing it also in gaming. Players have spent decades buying digital items that they don't actually own. Now they're demanding portability and transferability. Games that allow NFTs aren't crypto games. They're simply games with better economics. Games where your time and money produce assets you can keep, sell, or access across multiple worlds. And the gaming industry is slowly waking up to the fact that players want ownership, not rentals. You're seeing it in the creator economies. Creators are organizing their membership tiers. They're building communities with real stakes in the creator's success. Revenue sharing models, premium content tokens, lifetime access passes, it's all happening. And it's happening because creators are tired of living and dying by the algorithms they don't control. And you're seeing it in sports. Tokenized fan membership, authenticated merch, revenue sharing models, token-gated training experiences, dynamic collectible passes, and equity pilots. Some private, some public. The teams that embrace ownership models will acquire an entirely new generation of fans. And those fans won't defect because you own something. You don't walk away from it. All this leads to one defining truth. Tokenization is not a buzzword. It's the new infrastructure. The same way the internet became an infrastructure for communication, the same way smartphones became an infrastructure for our daily lives. Tokenization is becoming the infrastructure for engagement, commerce, loyalty, and ownership within entertainment. And fans are demanding it because they're tired of paying for everything and owning nothing. They want to invest, not just consume. They want to participate, not just watch. They want to shape outcomes, not just be monetized by them. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, because we have to address it head on. Regulation. Entertainment companies are terrified of screwing up. They're terrified of selling tokens that unintentionally become securities. They're terrified of what regulators did to early crypto companies. They're terrified of being the next headline. But the companies that win this decade are going to be the ones that embrace regulation instead of running from it. The ones who build compliant systems. The ones who issue regulated tokens. The ones who use proper transfer agents. The ones who document their offerings. The ones who treat fan equity with the same seriousness as corporate equity. Compliance isn't the enemy, it's the moat. Because once fan ownership models start operating in regulated, transparent, SEC-compliant framework, the entire entertainment world will go, okay, now we can do this. And when that happens, floodgates will open. Tokenization won't be a Web3 project anymore. It'll be a business model. And let me paint the next 5 years clearly, because this is where everything is heading. A major artist, someone at a Taylor Swift, Drake, Beyonce, Bad Bunny level, will tokenize a portion of their upcoming album. It won't be gimmicky. It'll be a compliant revenue share model. They'll raise 8 figures from fans in minutes, maybe even seconds. Fans will become stakeholders. Loyalty will become nuclear. Or how about this? A major film franchise, probably outside the US first, will tokenize distribution rights for a new project. They'll use it for international marketing. They'll build a global fan and investor base before day one. They'll outperform expectation because people always push the things they own. A major video game publisher will release a title with fully persistent, fully ownable in-game assets. Players will create a secondary market bigger than the game's initial revenue. Rival studios will scramble to catch up. A sports organization, maybe MLS, maybe international football, will tokenize a fan equity program tied to a specific revenue stream. Not utility, but equity. Fans will finally get a direct piece of the economics. That team will instantly become the most talked about team in the world. How about a global concert tour? We'll move entirely to NFT ticketing. No fraud, no scalpers, automatic resale royalties, dynamic merch offers. Fans will rave about how seamless it was, and suddenly every tour will adopt and have to adopt it. Lastly, what about a major content creator? Someone huge will tokenize their entire content library as a revenue share vault. Fans will invest, the creator will become independent from platforms forever. These are not fantasies, these are inevitable. Because you make ownership accessible, participation increases. When participation increases, revenue increases. When revenue increases, the entire ecosystem benefits. Tokenization is simply the rails that make this cycle programmatic. And this is why episode 22 is the how. Because once you understand how the technology actually functions, the rails, the automation, the compliance, the authentication, mobility, the entire thing stops looking like Web3 hype and starts looking like the new operating system for the entertainment industry. This is the shift from consumption to participation, from access to ownership, from static to dynamic, from centralized control to shared value, from old entertainment to the new fan economy. And that's where we're living in episode 22. Next episode, we're moving into something I take personally, how tokenization can help athletes build generational wealth, build leverage where they're still playing, and protect themselves from the mistakes that have destroyed so many careers. This one's going to matter. This is Old Men, New Money. I'm Phil Larmon, and entertainment will never be the same because ownership becomes normal.